a playlist original.
Hey, what's up? It's your host, Tori, and who is ready to be petty? Welcome back to another episode of RTBB. I'm so glad you're here. This week, Emily Rose is joining me, and we bounce around to a lot of different topics. We talk about Khloe Kardashian on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast. We talk about Emily's beef with Taylor Swift right now. We talk about kid Laroi and Scooter Braun. They re-signed their management contract. Jeffree Star's career change. And of course, Emily nominates a Pettyweight Champion of the Week and shares her This Week in Petty. The This Week in Petty is very much in RTBP's vein. Remember when I was trying to pull off Be Well and Champ said I couldn't, but I am still actively pursuing that as my sign off in cards, in correspondence, in cards, emails, etc. Anyways, it is episode 95. I cannot believe I'm here. And in about 5 weeks, well, I guess 5 weeks exactly, it's going to be RTBP's 100th episode. 100 episodes over like 4 years seems like nothing. Nevertheless, we're going to celebrate. If you have an idea of what you would like to hear on that podcast episode, please let me know. I don't know if it's about like how RTBP came to be, the inner workings of the podcast. Like, fuck if I don't know what people want to hear about. But if there's something specific that you want to hear about, let me know. I have a very special guest, and I think that we are gonna listen to my first ever episode, and I might do some like favorite clips or favorite moments on the pod. But yeah, if there's something else that you can think of how we can celebrate, that episode will be coming in early July. So I'm very, very excited. Last thing I want to leave you with before we get to the episode with Emily is just if you could subscribe and rate and review the podcast, it would be so lovely and I'd appreciate it so much. Subscribing and like downloading the episode really helps me climb the Apple podcast chart, which I know sounds like a whole bunch of like mumbo jumbo, and I definitely do not record this podcast to like be high on like some fucking arbitrary chart, even though it's nice obvi, but it does help the podcast find new listeners, which means we can get bigger guests. I can put more resources into it, etc., and just more people to chat with and more like, diverse perspectives. So yeah, downloading the episode, subscribing to the podcast, leaving a rating and review is super, super helpful. Okay, friends, that is all. Let's get to the show. Here's my conversation with Emily Rose. I'm back with a very special guest. Emily Rose from It's Become a Whole Thing is here. Emily, how are you?
I'm great. I've been dancing around while you did your little intro spiel because I'm so excited.
Me too.
I've just been looking forward to this.
I'm so glad you're back. I know. I feel like we have so much to catch up on. I've been loving your podcast.
You're so sweet. I've been loving yours too.
I was just telling Emily how I was listening to her talk about PR strategies, and I just feel like you've really found a niche where you talk, like there's definitely, it's like kind of like a comedic interview, but you also are kind of hitting on some of the like, I don't know, like more strategy or behind the scenes or just like a little bit more like analytical than RTBP.
Well, no. No, I mean, I don't know. It's like a look into my chaotic mind, which doesn't really know when to stop with my analyzing things, which is both a gift and a curse, but it comes in handy sometimes for the
Yeah.
podcast. But I always want to listen to podcasts that are just fun and light but informative and well researched, and that's what our TVP is. So
Oh, thank
yeah.
you. Thank
We're so
you.
cute.
I know. If there's new listeners to RTB, because you were on in January, but if there's anyone, or December, but if there's anyone new, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your podcast?
Well, I have a podcast called It's Become a Whole Thing, and that's sort of my moniker across the board. So I have a podcast, a Patreon, and a TikTok, and all called It's Become a Whole Thing. And it's, I guess you said it pretty well. It's sort of like very fluffy on the outside, but then I like to go really deep. But I kind of feel like I trick everyone. It's like some kind of like Trojan horse of like superficiality, and then with some depth beneath that, or sometimes not. Sometimes it's just me rambling, and then I get some people excited about that and some people in the reviews upset about that. So it's a mixed bag.
Oh, literally. But I feel like I work in higher ed, and I feel like we talk about this all the time about like packaging or getting people, like meeting people where they're at for conversations. And I feel like we're able to touch on a lot of like societal issues within the context of pop culture that I think is really fun.
Yeah, exactly. I always feel like I'm looking at it from an anthropological point of view. You know, I'm just like studying these humans and I find them so interesting. And I kind of want to know the life story of everyone on walking down the street, or just that, like my random like neighbors I don't talk to, but it's not appropriate to pry into the to pry into the life of private citizens. So that's where I feel like I love pop culture, because here are these people that everyone's taken an interest in, and we get this full life story with all these updates. So that's so exciting to
Yeah.
me.
Do you feel like with these public figures, like say Kim Kardashian, that we do know like the real her, or like we know inside her life?
Well, I think her real life is a construct. Like, what,
Mm,
I mean, we're presented with a facade. Everything that they present to us is a facade. But at the same time, that is their life in a way. You know,
mm-hmm.
like what they're presenting to us is fake, most of it, but they are fake. Like that is who they are. So it's like I don't think if the cameras went away, I don't know who they would be. There's some celebrities who I think could still exist, but for them, I don't know. I don't think that they go into any relationships just purely with the heart. Well, except for some of them, maybe that's a whole other story. But like for Kim, if we're just talking Kim, I don't think she
Yeah.
goes into anything without thinking about the whole picture and the whole image of it. So
Mm-hmm.
we see one side that she presents us with, we can infer all these other things from it, but she's like part cyborg or something. I don't know. She, you know. So who is the real Kim?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it's so interesting, because it's like, yeah, celebrities let us into their lives and are public figures, but then I'm always like, what is how much of this is truly them, I
Yeah, what
guess.
is the truth? And so I always think of myself as really skeptical and really just not trusting a lot of things. And I like to look at PR couples and that kind of stuff. And at a certain point, I was like, am I looking too far into this? Like, but then I've been talking to my friend who is a musician, and we just happen to have grown up together. And now she made it big in the music industry, and she's like, oh no, it's even more fake than you think. Like I was asking her about what she thought about all those TikToks of like Halsey and all those artists being like, "Oh my god, my record label." And she's like, "I'm pretty sure it's all set up. Like it's all kind of because
Yes. Okay,
she has
yes.
pressure from her record label to put out TikToks, but it's not like we won't release this single it's more like, hey, look, social media is important. It's shifting. Here's the new app that's, it's good to get on it.
Yeah, 100%. I talked about that in my episode that was released yesterday. When people are listening to this, it would be last week, about Halsey's thing, because I think that is all set up. But it's so annoying that you're like baiting your consumer. Like, it just, again, is like we're the ones being duped. I don't know. I don't like feeling like I'm being duped. Obviously, no one likes that
But
feeling.
the consumer's getting so much more savvy about it that a lot of people weren't duped. A lot of people were like, mm-mm.
How dare you?
I'm not buying it.
Totally. Well, they're capitalizing off of their bad reputations, which is so interesting because that's just been outlined so much more in, like, especially I feel like with Taylor Swift really being super public about what was going on with her record label.
Yeah, I love all the spoof. I've seen all these spoof videos of people being like playing like old RuPaul songs and being like, my record label's not letting me release this. Like my record labels has me locked in a basement, and like
that's so funny. That's so funny. Okay, this like naturally kind of segues into one of our topics. So maybe let's just start with Kid Laroi and Scooter Braun. I don't even know if I'm saying that because I've never said his name out.
I just realized me neither. Me neither. Kid Laroi.
Yeah. I also didn't know that he's Australian. Because I've never heard him speak either. Okay, I know but I'm gonna talk about him. I know
nothing about Kid Laroi.
Yeah, like that's definitely a stage name because in the articles I was reading about him, but he has a real name. Didn't write it down for like I have a 2-page outline. Didn't include his first name. Perfect. Like, love this. But he's kind of like one of, like a definitely up and coming artist. Like had huge success with on SNL with Miley Cyrus and then his song with Justin Bieber. But it's just interesting because a lot of articles are coming out about him right now, about his management. He had signed with Scooter Braun in June 2021 and then left, stating that there was like significant problems with the label and how Braun was like Scooter was not really involved in his career. And then he recently, so he came out with a TikTok and I like immediately sent it to you. Yeah,
I'm like, who sent it to who first? Because I thought I maybe sent it to you. Like, it was.
Because again, I thought it was real because of this, A, Scooter's reputation, B, a lot of, especially younger, newer artists not putting up with bad management. Like, I know Olivia Rodrigo cut ties with her management team, like just really not, sticking out these like really bad contracts. And so Kid Laroi posted a TikTok in April and it was promoting his new song and the caption was "Show me your last bad mistake," and then he showed a picture of Scooter Braun.
Yeah. I have a controversial take on Scooter Braun, which is that he's not as bad as people say he is.
Oh my god, that's fucking piping hot tea. Oh my god. Because, well, like, okay, like in the Swiftie community, it's just like pitchforks.
I know.
Oh, yes. I know.
And I did a Scooter Braun deep dive like a while ago. I had some angry Swifties. Okay. I'm not like a full-on Scooter Braun apologist, but at the same time, he's really labeled as this monster. And there's so much going on in Hollywood and the music, film, everything industry that's so horrific. And I know the bar is really low for just general good behavior, but I'm not saying that he is a great person, but he kind of sounds like your average slick businessman.
Yeah.
Like totally. All of his practices, all of his things are like shady, doing little shady deals or favoring one artist who's more successful over the other, being a bit fair weather with like who he gives his attention to and when, which really sounds like your average person who runs a multi-million-dollar business. That's that's not saying like, you know, it'd be great if all the millionaires were also really compassionate people, but I just don't think that's the case with almost any of them. So I don't know. I don't think he's like enemy number one.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think like the parts of him that I'm suspicious of is like it seems like he does push his artists to like overwork. But again, like I feel like probably everyone in the industry does. Yeah. Again, not saying that that's right or anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, there's probably so many crazy deals happening and things falling through and things that artists are really disappointed in. It's very uncommon to have an artist like Taylor Swift who is so opinionated and really vocal and likes to sometimes rally the Swiftie army. And so she has a right to do that. And like, it's cool. I think it's cool that she uses how big she is as a celebrity to try to change the music industry. I guess it seems to me like the type of stuff he does is very standard practice.
Yeah. Totally.
You know? Which, doesn't make it right, but also it doesn't make him. It just, I don't know who's great in the music industry who runs these. Have you ever heard anything good about someone who runs one of those record companies, like the larger ones?
Yeah, no, nothing. Yeah, like there's obviously benefits to working with him. Like he literally works with like some of the biggest artists like Ariana Grande, Demi Lovato,
Justin Bieber,
obviously.
Our boy. By the way, just side note, I love how I like texted you and I was like, what's wrong with me? I have Justin Bieber's next Tim Hortons launch like in my Google Calendar, and you were like, I had it for the first launch of his first donuts, and I was like,
like I'm like, same. What is wrong? like yeah, I was like, is there something wrong? like, yeah,
you're like, yeah, but how else would you keep track of it if it wasn't in your calendar?
Yeah, I'm like, when would you know to go? Like, it's also just so funny how literally his new drink is just a cold brew coffee with vanilla creamer.
Well, it's not.
Bieber brew, like
well, it's not like he's gonna formulate a new flavor, you know. He's not even known for drinking coffee. It's not like your girl Emma Chamberlain and her coffee. Shout out Emma Chamberlain. but literally, yeah, he's not. This is just him being like, yeah, I'm Canadian, Tim Hortons, whatever. Throw together a coffee. I'm sure they presented him with options. I could see him in the boardroom just being like, I don't know, whatever. The first one you showed me, like not even really fully registering like what the Bieber brew is.
I did love when he vouched for the lids because they changed to be more sustainable, like for sure. So like,
but, you know,
kudos.
But at the same time, a lot of what's wrong with the world is corporations putting it on individual consumers while they're doing bad things. And it's like, you know, if we have a more convenient lid to drink from, maybe I think it's not going to throw out the balance. Give us the lid. Give us the lid, okay?
Literally, because now they're so fucking flimsy that it's basically no lid at all.
I know. These are real issues.
Yeah,
you didn't like the Tim Bieb, I think you said, but I did. I liked the Tim Bieb. I didn't actually think I would like it, but I did.
I just thought they were like cop out flavors because they were basically just like normal Timbits with like a slight change that I didn't think added really to the experience.
Oh, because I always get the same Timbits. I always get the jelly donut, which is like controversial, or the chocolate, very controversial. I know. I live life on the edge. Or the chocolate one. That one, the Tim Biebs were like birthday cake themed.
Yeah,
I was into it, but we'll see. I'm gonna get myself a Bieber brew and a Tim Bieb.
Me too. Me too. Me too. Yeah, I usually get like sour cream glazed Timbits, so I liked the sour cream one that he had with like chocolate chips on it or something like that. Like that was good.
We're
But
saying
yeah,
this.
I'm gonna get
We're saying this as if he came up with the like recipes and like.
Literally, we're like, Justin, that's so innovative.
I think he showed up for one photo op and was like, one commercial.
Yeah. Kate, have you seen the new like snippet, like the new commercial? Why does he look evil? Like why is there like thunder and like his face is like creepy and stuff?
I don't know. Maybe he's being haunted by his demons and he can't keep it, he can't contain it.
Oh my god, that's
They're
so
catching
funny.
up to him. I don't know.
That's so funny. Oh my god. Yeah, one of my listeners like sent this to me like, why the fuck does this look like a Halloween like commercial? And I was like, good fucking question.
Well, it's hard when I picture him on set. It's really hard for me to not picture him in the way he was in his deposition. Did you ever watch that? Yeah, okay. When he's like, I don't know. Why you ask me stupid questions? Oh, you want me to you want me to remember that? Well, I don't know.
Selena, who?
Yeah, don't talk to me about that. Like, sir, you're in court right now. You're in a deposition. Like, you can't.
I know. You knew it was like really bad then when it's like, oh wow, you're like, you won't cooperate with anybody.
No. So I know he's changed, but I still want to picture him on set. I can't help but picture that.
Totally. I feel like he's changed, but then I also see those clips of like him talking to Haley and I'm like, have you changed?
No,
like
I think
yeah.
Well, okay. So looking into his life actually made me have a lot more compassion for him, because I was kind of this mind. I was like, oh, Justin Bieber's like up to evil stuff, whatever, but he was just from a really terrible upbringing, and I don't know how he could have turned out normal. But the fact that they have to defend their relationship every other week, he has to explain, I wasn't yelling at Haley, like we were just talking really loudly and I had an angry face for 1 second. It's like, at what point, how many times do you have to do this over and over? And where there's smoke there's fire. So
yeah, I have always been an apologist for Justin Bieber, because I think it's because I knew his background. I feel like the layperson doesn't know, like his parents weren't together, they were like teen parents, like
his
dad didn't live in the same house.
His dad is like a trash person who like
just like literally the worst, like didn't want anything to do with him, and then came back when he got famous. Like it's just like very stereotypical like shit. I think like his grandparents were really important in his life for like raising him, but like like lower income family, just like all of this like stuff that I'm sure was like pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, doesn't like excuse his like piss poor attitude sometimes, but I don't know, I definitely have empathy for him. Speaking of Scooter Braun and a little bit of Taylor Swift, more Taylor Swift hate. I feel like I hold her like I try to hold her accountable, because I just love her so much that I feel like she's a part of my real life, and I would say this, I would want the people that I hang out with and that I love to, I don't know, be like held accountable for when they're shitty.
Okay, it's funny you say that, because I was about to say I feel like we're friends and we're in a fight right now, like me and Taylor. I'm like mad at you, Taylor. Like, I need you to know that. Okay.
Literally, like I was podcasting with Maddie from Park to Car Convos, and I was like, I just don't get the Joe thing, and she's like, I think you're acting like you're Taylor's friend and you like don't like her boyfriend because he's like not treating her well. I'm like, I
don't
and
like
I was
her
like, that's
boyfriend.
so fucked.
No, but
yeah,
like sorry, like
like it's so weird to think that about somebody that I have never met / will never meet, but
weird,
I do.
Is it that weird? What are we doing here? That's all that we're doing here.
I know.
Although I do have moments where I'm like, okay, I'm in too deep, but
Same.
Here we are. I'm mad at Taylor right now.
Yes.
Do you feel the same way?
Yes. like mucho. So okay, so
Let's back up. Let's back up a little bit.
Yeah. So okay, so you said you wanted to talk about this, and I actually never saw this original post, so maybe you can explain it. But basically, Taylor was posting about Joe's TV show Conversations with Friends, but has been like radio silent on like things that are happening in the US right now that are like so fucked up, including Roe v. Wade, mass shootings, etc. Is that kind of the gist?
Yeah, exactly. And there's always the people that argue celebrities don't need to get political. Fine. But her whole thing, her whole Miss Americana documentary, her campaigns for the last few albums, Lover, that type of thing, it was so much about being political and being silent for so long and finally using her voice and standing up for what's right. And for her to be silent, and while so many things are happening, and then be like,
Check out
Joe's
Conversations with Friends
shitty Netflix show on the same week.
Hulu show.
It was like salt in the wound. It was like, Taylor, maybe if you just hadn't said anything at all, nothing, people could have been like, okay, well, whatever. But no, we were reminded you do have a phone that you have access to. You do have a social media account, and you used it to promote your real or questionable relationship and his questionable acting skills. So that's how I feel about that.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like it's tough to watch things like the Miss Americana documentary that was all about her regrets not speaking up in the 2016 election and then not continue. I think like her specifically, she has a fan base that could be so influenced for the better. Sometimes I feel guilty about not addressing things that are happening in the world, and I was like, I have 1,000 listeners. My scope is, my platform is so small in comparison. Yeah, I think that's also what haunts me. But like another piece of it is that I've been having conversations is like, why do we expect our celebrities to like speak out on these topics? But I'm like, for me, it's because they do have the influence, like more than like literal like politicians.
Yeah, and we are not the same. We have small platforms, and also I am not able to have political conversations with the public just because of, I know it's a privileged point of view, but I'm really sensitive, and it gets people really crazy, and just it gets people very fired up. And to be on the receiving end of that intensity, I find it hard enough for me to just manage the comments on like pop culture topics that I don't even really care about, and political things I really do care about. So it would be impossible for me to separate myself from that. Plus the hostility, even just for example, yeah, I there was when the trucker convoy, the like KKK flu Klux Klan was passing through. Yeah. I commented on someone's TikTok. Did I tell you about this?
Yes.
Yeah, I commented, and I was like, "This is so embarrassing," and 100 people were. There was a thread of 100 comments, and most of them were like, "Go home," like all this stuff, and I was just like, "Okay, I know that these are people that I don't see eye to eye with. I know these people exist, but this is a lot." And so, yeah, I don't have the platform nor the capability of handling it. But Taylor Swift made a lot of money off of these documentaries and the campaigns around her albums that centered around her saying, now I'm going to be this political person.
And I think like it's not even that you can't handle that and she can, but she has the resources. Like if she gets attacked online, she can book a counseling session. It's like, yeah. I have limited I have limited resources. Like yes. My insurance only covers so much, and I can only afford so much like therapy or whatever.
We were saying the other day that like, I was laughing thinking about the other day when we were like, if we were rich and famous, we would do therapy every day.
So literally so much fucking therapy. Holy shit.
But yeah, so you know, she's talking about this in Miss Americana. I don't know how much she was paid for that documentary, however many millions of dollars, but a lot. And so she's not only saying that she's going to be more political, but she's profiting off of that. And so it just reminds me of how self-serving she can be sometimes. And if you never said you were going to be political, that would be a different story, but I'm I'm not impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think she's like donated privately?
Probably, but that doesn't it's it's not even about that. I'm sure she is giving donations, or she probably is, but it comes back to there's this conservative fan base that she started with as a country singer, and she was so scared to speak out against LGBTQ like issues, or for those issues, because of like not wanting to alienate that platform. And then Roe v. Wade is just yet another thing where it's like I feel like she's going into default position of don't alienate my Southern fans.
Yeah. Does she need, again, like, let's say Southern American fans? Like, it's like, what? Like, you're literally a worldwide pop star.
Well, I mean, that's maybe one theory. I don't know. I don't know, because if you speak out against it, obviously you're going to alienate conservative Republican people.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No matter what country.
I don't know what other reason she would have, or maybe she's just all talk, and she's just about herself and her man at the end of the day.
Yeah, I just do feel like there is a responsibility when you have a platform to like speak about these issues. And I know that like so much goes on in the world, like the news cycle goes so quickly that it's hard to like even keep on top of but like try like
but it's like I know and I get really overwhelmed, but Roe v. Wade being overturned is not just your average news story. It's like full on, okay, we thought it was dystopian before, now it's like dystopian mode, fully activated. People are making sneaky TikToks being like, hey, if you want to come go fishing with me in Canada, you can. And I'm like, what world is this, that it's like this underground railroad for giving women abortions? Like, I don't know, it's very dark and dismal. And so Taylor, we don't need you to promote Joe's stupid show and then get your honorary diploma where you talk about your reputation and how you're not cool, and basically do I was seeing her speech through the lens of me being mad at her, and I was like, it's all about you, Taylor, huh? It's all about you at the end of the day.
She is very self-centered. Like, I think that's fair to say. Totally. Yeah, I think it's just hard because it's like, I feel like the average person just feels so helpless when these things happen. And then when there's actually a person that isn't helpless, like that could actually make a difference in like elections and etc. Like, I don't know, crowd, like fundraising and like shit like that doesn't. I think that's like a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. Step up, Taylor. We know you're listening, and we need we need more from you.
Yeah, totally. And I think like it is under discussed how she's like, her original fan base was like super conservative, and like a lot of shit was like based in groups around like white supremacy that she like didn't denounce.
Yeah.
Like there's a few podcasts that like discuss that, but like
for so long.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, she was a neo-Nazi princess according to these groups, but it's like, okay, how many blog posts from neo-Nazis have to come out before you just say, hey, I'm not down? It's not that hard.
Yeah. No, it truly isn't. Let's like shift to something like actually it's literally shitting on another person.
Let's be negative about a different person.
Yeah, let's. Khloe Kardashian was on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast with Amanda Hirsch, following Kim's footsteps. Have you listened to both of the episodes?
So yes, I did. In preparation for recording this podcast, I did my primary research. I just have to start by saying I know you feel the same way because we talked about this before the episode, but the every time I hear the name or read the name Not Skinny But Not Fat, I feel rage. Like sometimes almost blackout rage. I'm like, this is the worst name. It's so annoying. It's like smug pick me girl. It's like, I'm not I'm not skinny, but I'm not fat. It's like shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like I don't I fucking sorry. maybe
It's
maybe that's too much, but like it's also combined with what I know of her character and all the controversies and all that comes together and I just really cringe.
100%. So I used to really like Amanda, like I would say in like 2017 or like 5 years ago when I was like deep in diet culture and I related to I was like I'm not skinny but not fat. Like so fucking gross. I probably saw a little bit of a problem with it, but like now I have to like choke out the words because it's so brutal.
Yeah. And I only discovered her via the Reddit threads about all of her controversy. I actually hadn't engaged with any of her material until then. And then so my introduction to her was via her scandals surrounding fat phobia, racism, Islamophobia, bullying people. So that was my introduction to her. So
Totally. She very much gives me. Do you know the Oshrey sisters? Yes. It's very much that. And okay, this is like how scary this is because so like yes, like 5 or 6 years ago, I followed Amanda and the Oshrey sisters, and I
followed the
them.
Oshrey sisters too, and I really enjoyed them as well at the time.
Yes,
yeah,
because they are funny.
Yes.
Like Amanda's funny, Claudia's
Yes.
funny, Jackie's funny, but it's these messages about their values that are so woven into their content that you can't discern a lot of their shit. And it also, I don't think you watch Summer House on Bravo.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh my God. Amazing.
Well,
Okay.
I watch also the show that produced it, that it was a spinoff from Vanderpump Rules, which I'm still campaigning for you to watch, but that's a whole other story.
It's like so weird that I haven't watched it because it is like it probably will be immediately become my favorite.
But it's
show.
overwhelming, I know. But I have two things that I ongoingly bully you about, and that's watching Vanderpump Rules and starting a TikTok. And I'm unrelenting. But anyhow, I do.
I love it.
I do watch Summer House. So
okay, good, because they also remind me of Paige DeSorbo and Hannah Berner and the Giggly Squad, like where it's just like. On the surface, it looks like just girls having a chat, being fun. I like the Oshrey sisters. I was like, these are me and my sisters, like because I have two sisters, and it's just like same vibes. But then you hear these like comments and stuff, and you're like, oh, just wait a second, like can we think about that for like 1 second? You're like, oh, this is actually like really fucking shitty and like rooted in like deep, gross, extremely problematic values and thoughts and assumptions.
Yes. And like covertly conservative and just all the things. So yeah. And they're kind of like a cult, especially the Oshrey sisters.
Yes, very much. And same with Giggly Squad. I feel like it's the same thing. Like,
apparently they have psycho Facebook groups that like go and attack people.
Both.
Oh yeah, both.
Yeah, both like extremely conservative. Like I'm sure it's like like pro Johnny Depp like shit. Like it's that type of stuff that just like spirals like out of control and is just like a breeding ground for really right wing, a lot of right wing politics. But anyway, so I used to really like her. And then, I think it was like when like some of the Palestine Israel stuff was happening that she was commenting on. And I was like, ooh, like this warrants the unfollow.
It's horrific. No, it's horrific. It's so, and it hits especially close to home for me as a Jew who is very pro-Palestinian rights and just general
Sovereignty.
human rights. And like, so
Yeah.
I just feel like she's annoying and problematic,
Yeah.
to say the least. So, but she does something very well, which is kissing the Kardashians' asses.
Yeah. So why do you think that the Kardashians have like fucking globbed on to this like she's definitely a big podcaster, but she's not like the biggest podcaster, or like even she's not even Kardashian centric. Like she covered more Bravo up until like the past
Yeah.
year. Like, and Bravo celebrities. So like why do you think they're like obsessed with her
Well,
now?
I think it's not even that all of them are obsessed. I think it's just Kim is doing these random moves, and then Khloe's now following suit. But I think that Kim is just in her. I go to Staten Island movie theaters and I appear on random podcasts, and I'm in her that era. Um, and so I think there's whatever that strategy is, this kind of dressing like a superhero sometimes, being fun, chill, relatable girl other times. Maybe that's part of it. But I think with Amanda Hirsch, she is very favorable towards the Kardashians. Like she says a lot of nice things about them, and maybe they just picked a random Dear Media podcast, you know? They're like at
Literally,
10
Dear Media is popping off.
Yeah.
Because they're having the like new Laguna Beach podcast with Kristen and Steven. Like they're really taking over the millennial pop culture podcast
Yeah, I heard
network.
someone call it the White Lady Podcast Network.
Oh god, it's so fucking
Yeah.
is.
So I
Yeah.
kind of just feel like
Yeah.
Kim just picked a random Dear Media podcast that was pretty pro Kardashian, but still like edgy, quote unquote. And then Khloe was like, okay, you know, because from listening to Khloe's episode, I knew she was insecure, but it made me so sad for just how deeply insecure she is and how much she questions every little move. And so I think she probably just heard the interview with Kim and saw that it was pretty light, keeping it light and chill, and was like, all right.
And felt
Yeah.
safe to go on and chat. What was like your biggest like takeaway, or like, well, obviously about her confidence, but was there anything specific that they talked about that you were like, holy shit?
Well,
Like,
this one moment that made me sad, it was a very brief moment, but she was talking about how she built her house right next to Chris, and that is a lot to unpack right there. But
yes.
Amanda was like, "Oh, does that mean you're her favorite now?" She's like, "Oh, of course not. Of course not." And then she said the exact phrasing was something like, she likes me more than what I used to be, than that. And she referred to herself as that, like that thing that I used to be. And I was like, Khloe, like, oh my God, but you're still viscerally like, no, of course I'm not the favorite, but like, probably she likes me more now than she used to. I was like, oh, and you're still just
yeah.
trying to win her attention.
I just feel her whole life is trying to win her affections slash like be like her sister. Like,
Yeah.
I cannot think of anything else about Khloe Kardashian outside of that.
Yeah, well, so there's actually, I made a TikTok about it because there was a researcher. I mentioned briefly that their houses are right next to each other, and I had this psychologist comment referring to this study about how for children that have experienced trauma, amongst families where all the children have experienced trauma, the most traumatized child is more likely to stay home the longest or stay the closest to home. And it's kind of like this insecure attachment style, and it comes from, they were talking about in the study, they also observed children on the playground. So children that had experienced trauma were much more like clinging to their parents, and the ones that had a secure attachment style were kind of like off doing their thing, like not worried about it. And I was like, whoa. And I guess like that's what Khloe.
See that. Yeah, you see those childhood attachment styles carry on into your adult relationships for sure.
So there was that, and then of course there was her denying the plastic surgery, and she sounds so convincing. But it's like, no, that's not the truth, Ellen.
Yeah. Iconic. Iconic.
Quote Dakota Johnson.
Yes, yes. Yeah, 100%. That is getting so frustrating. This small admittance of, or admittal or whatever, of one thing to like cover up like just a slew of other things. Like I feel like that is like what they teach you when you go off and play Survivor or whatever. It's like put a seed of truth in the story and no one will think you're lying.
I know. And she sounded very convincing.
Because I think she actually believes it. Like, that's the other thing. It's like,
oh my God.
Like, I feel like she's like, no, this is just the truth.
She gets eternal sunshine of the spotless mind every time she does plastic surgery. And like
literally. Or she just believes like you know when you say something so often that you're just like, this is the truth. I feel like she just has said in so many fucking interviews and on the TV show about this nose job that it's like, this is it for her.
Yeah, or like her kid Photoshop thing, like the fact that they're like, oh yeah, it was so silly, it was just a silly little thing. But I'm like, that's the day you guys released the Kardashians Hulu trailer. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't just this color coordinated thing. There's a reason behind everything you guys do, and often the reason is crazy. You guys are crazy. And yeah, she sounded hollow and so small. And Amanda hinted at that. She was sort of like, some people say that you are not the funny one anymore, but that's not true. But like, what do you think about that in this sort of veiled way? And she was, I think, a little bit honest where she said, yeah, I think it's just maybe Tristan over the years, or I don't know what it is. I was like, man, Khloe, she said she's never been to therapy recently. And I was just like, how, why, what time to start and get some insights into all of this.
Yeah, I found that really interesting too, because in the premiere episode of the Kardashians, she said her Tristan were in counseling, but then she was telling Malika that she wishes there was counseling or like therapy for overthinkers. And I'm like, the way that you're talking makes it sound like you have never been to therapy and you're just like lying.
Well, but maybe she views couples counseling as different. Maybe it's more like
than like individual.
Yeah, maybe it's more like a mediator who's working on their relationship and like co-parenting type of stuff, which is very different than having an individual therapist, because they're not supposed to be the same. You're supposed to have different people that work with you as a couple and you as an individual. And I feel like you could probably get somewhere in your relationship. I don't know, I haven't been to couples counseling, but I'm sure you could get somewhere, but you won't get to the same places you'll get to with individual therapy of like deep inside what's going on. Let's open it up. But yeah, she has so little insight into herself.
Yeah, I found it really interesting because like, yeah, she did mention Tristan, but I wish, and like, again, are we entitled to this information? Like, who's to say? But like, I wish we did get more like about Tristan and or like reflecting on her family and her family dynamics. And like, she has been always the sister that's been like othered. She's always the advice person. She's really heavily leaned on in her family.
I know. I go back and forth between feeling so sorry for her and so sad for her, and then at other times listening to her talk and being like, liar.
Yeah. Literally.
That's what I was saying a couple times in my head during her interview. I was like, Khloe, liar.
Same.
Yeah. What did you take away from it?
Yeah, I definitely think like, because this I feel like is one of her first kind of like, really like sit down interviews outside of like quick talk shows to discuss these topics. And I feel like she did give us some like kernels into her like real life, but I think, yeah, like the biggest thing is just deep sadness for the way that her life has unfolded over the last couple years. Just think like it just really shows you, I think, like, okay, so the other piece that I found really interesting was her work with Good American, which is her jeans company, her denim company, if you don't know. But it really reminded me of Kim's work with prison reform, because it's pretty performative, and she talks about prison reform but won't name like white supremacy and racism and like that she has black kids.
Oh, these are really good points.
Like,
why have I never thought of this? Oh my god.
I don't know.
I'm like, that is, wow, very blatant, and yet I did not put that together. Well, I always thought of of her activism as performative in the way that she could cover up other stuff that she's doing and be like, look, I do prison reform. Like, I thought it was her way of covering up how much they do, like, basically blackface. Like, they've just built their career.
Well, that's the thing. Like she denies, when she's ever asked about culture appropriation, she denies it, but then she's doing prison reform and like these behaviors like blackfishing and stuff are the foundation that holds up like
her whole career and what she's built her whole image off of. Totally. No one's, and everyone in her circle, even Pete Davidson has to get spray tanned now.
Literally. But then Khloe is talking about how Good American has a full size range. They won't have stockists that won't do the full size range. They partnered with Zara and they did the first inclusive line of that Zara has ever had. And then she's talking about all of this, like, I don't know, like weight loss, like her fucking body transformation and stuff. And like, I don't know, it's just both of those things, like Kim's work and then Khloe's work, like, I don't know, it just seems
like, revenge body, but then I'm size inclusive. And also, I've actually been on her website at one point last year, or maybe it was like deep in like pandemic depression. I wanted to buy Good American jeans, and like there was actually nothing available in the larger sizes, like in my size for anything.
Okay, there is a conspiracy theory. I don't think I made it up, but I fully believe it, that websites will put that they carry larger sizes, but they actually don't, and they just put sold out.
I so believe that, because it was for almost
like
everything.
It has to.
It was like,
yes,
and like I'm not skinny but not fat. No, but like, oh my god. God, oh my god,
so fucking funny.
But I was just like, if they don't have my size for anything, like what about what about the rest of it? What about everyone? What about all the people that are my size or larger? Just, it was really depressing. So
100%. So yeah, that was like just this like, and I guess that this is the world, this facade of making a difference or minimally making a difference or being performative, and then like also perpetuating these like harmful ideas, or like not actually talking about like the root causes. Like, I don't know.
Totally.
So that was my biggest takeaway. Was just like how I was like, oh my God, like this is like, I love the way that she's talking about this, like about how she's like, people of every size want to look cute and wear a nice fitting pair of jeans and like all of this shit. And then she's like in the next sentence talking about how she is like drinking a Coca-Cola, not the 0-calorie version, and like is gonna go like work it off in the gym.
Which, by the way, I saw a TikTok that was showing all the different Coca-Cola references. Did you see that too? Yeah. And how they're just building up to some sort of Coca-Cola campaign, because Mason's in the Coca-Cola hat, Kim is holding it up in in a photo shoot, and then and that's the thing. Khloe sounds convincing. She's like, I'm just here with my Coca-Cola. But they said it a couple times, and I was like
3 times.
I was like, okay, what are you guys up to? I see you.
And it's not like Coke.
Coca-Cola
like,
trademark.
Yeah. I was like, does anyone ever say like, oh, I really want a Coca-Cola? Like,
yeah, are you trying to not confuse her with someone who's addicted to Coke? Like, what are you doing? Coca-Cola. You're drinking a refreshing Coca-Cola beverage, full calorie.
Yeah. Like, it was just so weird. But yeah, they are definitely doing something. Which, like, I would love a Coca-Cola sponsorship.
Oh,
like,
I'm so up for Coca-Cola money. Are you kidding me? Like,
Diet Coke is my brand.
yeah.
Like,
oh man, I'll do Coke Zero, whatever. Any.
Yeah.
Those discontinued. They had Coke Vanilla at some point. Any kind, I'll sell that.
Oh my god, that's so. Is there anything else you want to say about the Khloe not skinny but not fat interview?
Love and light. Prayers up for Khloe. It's like,
I'll post one of those like inspirational.
Oh yeah. Post
for
a
her.
Series of like inspirational.
Yeah. For you, Khloe. Yeah, thinking about you always.
Mm-hmm.
In like a move no one thought was ever gonna happen. Jeffree Star is selling meat from his yak farm.
I was like you said this to me last night. I was laughing so hard. Something about the whole Jeffree Star moving to Wyoming, being like, I love my babies, I love my yaks, this is my new life, leading his yaks through stores, like just like cradling them in his arms, and then in the next frame, holding up in his sparkly rhinestone acrylic nails a yak meat container. I was
package.
Like, what?
It's so fucking gross.
So, and like whatever, I eat meat, like, but
Same.
But for him, he talks about it like, oh, these are my babies, and it seems like
he has names for
all
of them. Yeah,
he has names for them. Exactly. I know. And he's like, my yaks are everything to me. I have a very, very random kind of non sequitur Jeffree Star anecdote, which is that I was talking to someone who gave me permission to tell this story anonymously, but their husband is a pinball person. And
and Jeffree Star famously loves his pinball game, or he did when he was dating Nate,
but he still does. And so or like, I don't know actually the current state of his like pinball like practice. But so she's like, pinballing is a really small world, but basically like her husband is like a minor celebrity because of pinballing. Like, it's like a small but incredibly passionate community. I didn't know about any of this. And Jeffree Star flew him out. He went to his house twice in California from like middle America, just to play pinball. It was just like, they said it was just really normal. And they just like, and this is what it was with Nate and
all his dogs,
all of his Pomeranians. Nate was like nice, but just like really high. Yeah, they just played pinball, and Jeffree flew him out first class. I was like in shock. Oh, and she also told me, I was like, please, like, if you give me the green light, I will say this, but like, pointed out his John Benet Ramsey tattoo. I didn't realize he had a John Benet Ramsey tattoo on his arm, this huge, and she was like, didn't know who it was. She's like, oh, that's a beautiful tattoo. He's like, oh, it's John Benet Ramsey. And actually, I talked to the detective who was on the case, and he told me everything, and I actually know what happened to John Benet Ramsey.
What the fuck?
I know. I was like,
what the fuck? So, okay, oh my, I'm fucking speechless. Okay, like, speaking of bad tattoos, like, what the fuck? You want a dead child that was horrifically murdered
on your arm, like,
on your arm?
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, he has like red rum across his stomach, which, like, is means
Yeah.
murder, but like, and like knives and stuff. I don't know. I guess there is this
Yeah.
whole like goth thing where it's like knives and like I don't know, like whatever. But
Yeah.
John Benet Ramsey, that's like was a real child. Like
Yes, that's so fucked up. So I wonder who he thinks it is. Like, does he think it's the brother or the mom?
yeah, who knows what goes on in his mind, or if this is even like true. Like just the fact that, and also she said this was like her first time meeting him. So like, who knows how many times he's like told this story.
Yeah, 100%. But I feel like that is what celebrities get to do. They get to like live out their, like, if they want to know stuff, they can just call the detective on
Yeah.
the John Benet Ramsey
Yeah, although I
case.
don't know if I could like trust too much of what he says, but I think he's
Yeah. He's also like a compulsive liar. Like,
yeah, and like genuinely
yeah.
addicted to controversy. And she said that when like the big wave of scandals came out in the last like 2 years or so, she said they were both like pretty embarrassed and just kind of like distanced themselves from him. They were like, why did we even like him in the first place? But I was like, no, I watched his makeup channels, I watched Shane Dawson series, like I did all of that, and all of that stuff was out there, and I bought his phony apologies. So I'm embarrassed too, whatever. I overlooked a lot of things, and now I'm like, oh god. And now I'm just watching the train wreck.
Yeah, that is Jeffree Star. It just like is so weird because like why did he move to Wyoming? Because he's such, I feel like he needs to be in Calabasas for his like job.
Well, a lot of it I think has to do with just all of the SA allegations and all of that. I think, and maybe like not making as much money. I know he says he's fine for money, but I imagine he's not as fine. I think your dollar can go much
He can't be.
your dollar can go much further in Wyoming than in California, Southern California, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he still has probably a lot of businesses that we don't even know about. He's alluded to them at some point, just like cannabis and like different businesses. I'm sure he doesn't have his name on, but at the same time, he used to get 10 million views on his makeup videos. Everything sold out day one. That's obviously not happening anymore. And so I think it was a combination of money and just having to run away from scandal.
Yeah.
And now,
and here's another scandal about Yak Me, because about a year ago on his Snapchat, because he's like still big on Snapchat. It's like fucking so weird. But he trademarked Star Yak Ranch. And people asked, like, are you going to be like using their meat? And he's like, I had to trademark yarn, cheese, breeding, butchering, but doesn't mean I'm going to do any of those things. Nothing is happening except brushing them, loving them, and feeding them. And then like a year later, like
he's like, they're all dead. I've eaten
and
all of them.
like,
and then I know it's like it's too much, and yet it's like it's both so bizarre and out of place, but at the same time it feels classic Jeffree.
100%. Like, I'm shocked, but I'm also not shocked at all.
And also like when we were trading content about this and came up with that video of him after his accident, which there's a lot of different allegations around and claims that he lied about different things, but then he had a Snapchat filter with cuts on his face. I was like, I am deceased.
Like, just like literally deceased, because it's like, again, you might see that, and like even if you know that it's fake, you might just like not be aware because you're seeing a person with cuts on their face. But it was like on his nose, and it was like the filter's like moving around while he's talking. And again, it's just these like stars doing these like shitty fucking social media stuff, and then for us to just like do they think we're like the dumbest people alive? It's so frustrating, because it reminded me of Billy Bobby Brown's using like a makeup filter and like washing her face with her like skincare line, but like just like not at all.
It's so funny. I just rewatched that recently. Oh, it's so refreshing. I love this after a long day on set. Just rub that into like
And she's like, it's literally her hands are like a full centimeter away from her face, and she's just
She
like
has a full beat. Full beat, start and end of the video.
and like, what the
And is
fuck?
ducking away
And
from her
even
face mist.
yeah, and she's like, okay, I'm just gonna like rinse this off and dry it, cut video cuts. I'm
Yeah.
She does that off camera, and she's like patting her face, but it's like, again, like 2 inches away.
Well, I think that came from a place of naivety, of like not thinking that we would realize that. I think what Jeffree Star does comes from a different place of just genuinely being addicted to controversy and what happens, because he knows what if he posts yak meat all of a sudden like it's nothing without any explanation, that we're gonna be like, what the fuck?
Like, he's selling plush toys of the yaks because they're named. Like, they're fucking TY Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
And then, and like, I also, like, I eat meat. I'm, like, not against eating meat. But if I think about it too much, I, like, can't eat meat.
Yeah.
Like, I could very, very...
Well, and he's...
Like,
well, and he said, of course I'm not going to, kill and eat them. So...
Jesus Christ. Okay.
Well, I feel like this is not super original, but my Pettyweight Champion of the week is Kimberly Noelle Kardashian. Anytime
Classic.
Yeah. Anytime her sisters are up to anything, like, there's been a few too many Kravis weddings recently, so she's like, okay, release the me and Pete kissing on our story. She just has to have the spotlight at all times. It can never be on her sisters for too long. She'll like respect the wedding weekend, but then like 5 business days later, she's like, okay, enough. Me and Pete kissing on the gram.
100%. Do you think her sisters like see through that?
I think probably, but I think that's just who she is, and they're probably all used to it. And it seems like she's been that way even before she was
her whole life.
A huge celebrity. Just attention hog. So
yeah, I loved when Amanda, not skinny but not fat, said, well, Kim and Courtney are dating rockers, like, will you be doing, like, following suit? And she was like, absolutely not. So there's one thing, she's not following in Kim's footsteps, but then what? Kim would die.
Yeah. Like, but then what?
You can't take the focus off her.
Yeah. Well, there's debate about whether her dating Pete was part of the whole aesthetic, going off of Courtney dating Travis, and now they're doing this punk thing, and they date white men, and they're just chill and fun. I don't know. Maybe Courtney or maybe Khloe's gonna follow suit, or maybe she'll keep dating athletes that ruin her life.
Yeah, one or the other, for sure. Yeah, but it is really funny. And like, even when after the Kravis wedding, when Kim was like, pictures are coming, like, don't worry, like, letting us, like, on Twitter of all places, letting us know that all of the Kravis wedding pictures were coming.
I know, it's like, don't worry guys, they're coming. We're like, okay, we're not,
Yeah, we've
also seen a lot of photos of it. Like, it's all good.
Yeah, it was live streamed.
Yeah.
Like,
it was on
good.
TikTok, it was on Instagram, it was on E! News. Yeah, so that's my Pettyweight Champion of the week. And as for this, thanks, you're so supportive, Tori. I'm like, it's Kim Kardashian. Have you ever heard of her?
Yeah, every week. Yeah.
And for this week in Petty, so this was the most passive aggressive email that I've ever written in my life. And the story of it, love a good passive aggressive business speak. But this was, so I was working a job that I hated, and Tori, I feel like I've bitched about it so much to you, but it was just bad all around. My boss was not a people person at all, and no one else in the office really talked to each other. Everyone kept to themselves. So I was really alone all day, or having her kind of breathing down my neck. And it was to the point where in the morning I would say, how are you? And she would roll her eyes and be like, oh, fine, how are you? Like that, exactly like that. And then I'd be like, I'm good. She's like, okay, can we move on? And yeah. And so, or like Monday morning, she'd be like, where is this thing? And I'd be like, good morning. How was your weekend? And I'm like, I don't even care for small talk all that much, but it's 8:30 in the morning on Monday. Can we just do
there's a balance. There's a respectful
one
balance.
sentence? Hey, how good.
Yeah.
Let's just go through the motions. So, and yeah, she was really horrendous, and my job was unnecessarily stressful and a bit of like a overworked, underpaid kind of scenario. So just overall, not great. And also, while I was doing this, I had a lot of like issues going on with my family and a lot of like medical stuff. And she was aware of this, but just like not compassionate about it at all. Whatever. Like I didn't expect her to be, but I handed in my 2 weeks. I did my last day. I think the day it was like I was supposed to end like early that day at like 4. At 5:30, I got an email to my personal email because I guess my work had already been deactivated. Just be like, "Hey Emily, do you? By the way, like one last thing, do you know? Did you email the blah 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 sponsor people of the like ask me about work things?" And I never responded to that. So that's the first part of the story. Like she's just like
Oh my
she's just like
God.
I'm like, girl, life is short. Like just
Chill.
yeah.
That's so bad. Also, it's like, couldn't she have contacted the company and be like, hi, the person you were talking to before, like, no longer works here. I'm picking this
Oh yeah,
up.
there's
Like, can you just fill me in on what you're up to?
yep.
Like,
Also, this was March or April, and she was referring to a cycle race that was happening in September. So not urgent.
yeah.
A cycle
No.
fundraiser that was happening in September.
Yeah.
So nothing urgent. We're not heart surgeons. So then and when she wrote that email, I wanted to just rip into her. I was like, no, I will just not respond. And then she emailed me a few weeks after that. It was sort of, I think, her way of kind of apologizing in a very roundabout way, where she was like, hey Emily, like I'm just thinking about you, and I know that not everyone is meant to work together, but I do care about you, and I wanted to know like some updates on your family members, like the ones who are sick. And I was like, um, and she's like, I just, oh, and she's like, oh, she's like, oh, and I saw your TikTok and you have a lot of followers. And yeah, that was another thing that on my last day, the one employee who was nice to me was like, your boss found your TikTok, and her and the marketing girl, who was also just rude, they're talking shit about you, and they're like, oh, this is why she like doesn't do her work, she's like off doing this. And
Oh my
yeah,
God.
I was like, well, enjoy. Like bye. I didn't bring this up directly with them, but so this was all like the subtext. So then she's like trying to make nice, and my response was the following. I was like, hello, thank you for reaching out, everything is well, wishing you well as well, all the best, Emily.
Oh my God. I love that. Nothing. Ugh, there's nothing more than wishing you well or like best
All the
wishes,
best. Yeah.
Emily.
Or yeah,
Yeah.
it was something. Yeah, it was something.
Best, comma.
Yeah, I know. I hit her with an all the best. Just to keep it
All the
all the
best.
best.
Like, that's how I read it.
Yeah. And I think I was like, everything is well. I hope things are well also on your end. Like, it was just like a 2, and I was just like, I sent it, and I just felt pure joy in my heart over the pettiness of the passive aggressiveness.
That's iconic.
Yeah.
That's iconic. How healing is that?
It was a beautiful petty moment. It did heal me. And I was getting like my Scorpio side was like activated, and I wanted to be like, well, I don't have to deal with her anymore. And she disrespected me so many times. And then I was like, no, stop, don't. And then this felt so much better than any sort of like look, you basically saying like, look, you're like a kind of psychotic person who, while she was my boss, was also doing this extra master's degree in like management. And I was just like, man, this is kind of who I imagine at management school. Some of the characters,
literally,
but like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be working with people. Like, there's lots of jobs where you don't have to be social if you can't even handle me asking how are you every once in a while. So yeah, that was my this month or this year in Petty.
I love that. And it's so much better than not responding, because it's like, oh no, I received your message, I read it, and this is how I chose to respond. Not like, oh, maybe it got lost in her junk mail or like whatever. Like, it's like, no, I read this.
No, it's been received and I'm wishing you well. Sincerely, Emily.
All the best.
All the best to you and your family, and to you and yours. Like
to you and yours.
To refer back to your aforementioned email. Yeah, no, it was just great. So that's so funny. That's my Petty.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. This was so much fun. I feel like we ran a mile.
We did, but it was so fun. It's so fun.
I feel like we talked about 1,000 things that no connection to each other. Except for it's all content we consume, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes on my TikTok, people are like, you're all over the place, I can't follow you. I'm like, well, look, this is how my brain works, okay? Like, if there's lots of people that will be dry and will go through one topic nice and orderly, like, not me, babe. So it was nice to sit down. Yeah, it's always nice to sit down with you, because we are very fascinated by many of the same topics. So it's great to cover all this ground.
It was. Yeah, and it's like, use the timestamps, or like skip this TikTok. Like,
there's timestamps for a reason. Use them.
Yes. Where can the listeners find your podcast and anything else you want to plug?
So it's become a whole thing, and it's out on podcast platforms. It's out everywhere you listen to podcasts. No, I don't know. I think Spotify, Apple, and like a few other random ones. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram. It's become a whole thing. And yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
You can find me.
Do you have anything
wandering? I was just gonna say, find me wandering the streets of Montreal, watching TikToks while I'm walking my dog, when I really should just be present, but I'm not. So yeah.
Me, I think you sent me a TikTok that was like a person doing the dishes and like trying to scroll with their nose, and I was like, is this me?
It was like because I'm a millennial who can't be alone with my thoughts for 1 second. I'm like, yep, that's me.
That's me. Yeah, 100%. I considered buying the remote on Amazon.
There's a remote
that you can. Yes, there's like a finger remote.
I shouldn't know about this.
Like for TikTok scrolling.
Yeah, it's dangerous stuff.
So dangerous. Oh my God. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, and also, guys, Tori will be on my podcast shortly. I forget when.
Yeah, in a few weeks.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Sometime in June.
Yeah, sometime in June. Get into it.
Yeah, so come find us there.
Yeah. Okay. Bye, Tori.
And there you have it. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And thank you to Emily Rose for joining me today. Like I said at the top of the show, if you enjoyed today's episode, the best thing you can do is share it with a friend who might like it, to rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or share on socials that you are listening to this episode. If there's something that you want me to talk about, definitely slide into my DMs. I'm most active on Instagram, very millennial of me, but I'm recording an episode later this week with a new guest that has never been on the podcast. So I'm very, very excited for you all to hear that. Anyways, I hope you are safe and healthy out there. As always, I'm your host, Tori, and I'm ready to be petty. See you soon. Bye.